Psalm 39 is a heartfelt, introspective prayer by David that delves into themes of human frailty, the brevity of life, the inevitability of death, and dependence on God. It is both a lament and a meditation, capturing David's internal struggle as he contemplates his life and his relationship with God. The psalm can be broken down into a few key sections that reveal David's state of mind and his profound reflections.
David begins by expressing a determination to guard his speech. I said, I will watch my ways and keep my tongue from sin. I will put a muzzle on my mouth while in the presence of the wicked. Here, David is wrestling with a powerful inner turmoil. He wants to avoid sinning with his words, especially around those who don't honor God. He understands that speaking rashly in moments of anger or frustration could lead him to say things he would regret, or even weaken his witness to others. So he commits to keeping silent, restraining himself even when his emotions are stirred up. However, this self-imposed silence doesn't bring him peace. Instead, it intensifies his struggle. My heart grew hot within me. While I meditated, the fire burned, then I spoke with my tongue. David's emotions build up like a fire within him. His silence has created an inner pressure, and he reaches a breaking point. His words can no longer be contained, and he must release what is weighing on his heart. This moment shows us how difficult it can be to navigate feelings of frustration and doubt while still striving to honor God. It also reveals David's honesty. He doesn't hide his struggles or pretend to have it all together. He brings his whole self, emotions and all, before God. When David finally speaks, he directs his thoughts to God, asking him to help him understand the shortness of his life. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. This is a raw, vulnerable request. David is asking God to remind him of his mortality. He wants to face the reality that life is brief and uncertain. This can be a difficult truth to accept, but David doesn't shy away from it. He wants to gain wisdom by recognizing the limits of his earthly existence. David then describes the temporary nature of human life. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. In ancient times, a handbreadth was one of the smallest units of measurement, emphasizing just how short life is. David is acknowledging that no matter how much we achieve or accumulate, our lives are like a vapor, a breath that appears briefly and then fades away. Even those who seem secure, the wealthy, the powerful, are ultimately subject to the same fleeting nature of life. This is a humbling realization, one that reminds us not to place our ultimate trust in earthly accomplishments. David goes on to reflect on the futility of human pursuits. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth without knowing whose it will finally be. David sees that many people spend their lives striving, rushing, and accumulating wealth or status, but in the end, these efforts are often in vain. We can't take our possessions with us when we die, and our achievements are temporary. This insight calls us to question what we are living for, and to seek a purpose that transcends earthly gains. Amid his reflection on life's brevity and futility, David finds his anchor. But now, Lord, what do I look for? My hope is in you. This is a powerful shift. David acknowledges that despite the fleeting nature of life, he has a source of hope that isn't bound by time or circumstance. God becomes his foundation, his reason for living, and his source of stability in a world filled with uncertainty. This declaration of hope is a reminder that while human pursuits are temporary, God is eternal. David is saying, in effect, in all this uncertainty, I choose to place my trust and hope in you, Lord. David turns his focus to his own need for forgiveness. Save me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the scorn of fools. David is aware of his own shortcomings and the consequences of sin. He doesn't want his mistakes to lead to shame or to be used against him by others. He asks God to save him from the consequences of his own actions, acknowledging his need for God's mercy. He then reflects on the weight of God's discipline. When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Surely everyone is but a breath. David sees God's discipline as a refining process, one that strips away pride and self-reliance. The metaphor of a moth consuming wealth illustrates how God's correction can humble us, often exposing the temporary nature of what we hold dear. Discipline is uncomfortable, yet David sees it as necessary, a reminder that God's purpose is to shape and refine his people. In this way, God's discipline becomes a path to humility and deeper reliance on him. The psalm ends with David's plea for God's compassion and peace. Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry for help. Do not be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as a foreigner, a stranger, as all my ancestors were. Here, David sees himself as a foreigner or stranger in the world, recognizing that he's just passing through. This image conveys humility and a sense of pilgrimage. He knows his time on earth is temporary, and he longs to find peace and rest in God before his journey ends. David concludes with a final request. Look away from me, that I may enjoy life again before I depart and am no more. This is a poignant ending. David asks for a reprieve from his suffering, hoping to experience some relief and peace before his life ends. It's a deeply human desire to find comfort and blessing in life's remaining moments.